Welcome to the Fantasy Source Fastball Podcast. My name is David Arnott, sitting next to Matt Lutovsky. Matt, what do we have on tap today?
Everything.
Everything?
Everything. No, we're going to talk about pitching today.
I wanted to talk about everything.
Well, we'll do that next time. No, pitching is the theme today since I write the pitching column. So what better thing to talk about?
Exactly. And as a former high school pitcher, I can say I have the damaged shoulder to prove it. And I would like to know if there's something wrong with Carlos Zambrano.
That's a good question. And I think there is, but I don't think we know what. So I don't know if it helps us. But he's coming back in the rotation, everyone. The Cubs announced it. They didn't announce when. They didn't announce who's getting kicked out for him. But they said he's coming back in the rotation. Which,
now, just to get let's not bury the lead, does that mean go pick him up?
No, I don't think it does.
No? Why not?
Because
he's Carlos Zambrano.
He is Carlos Zambrano, and he's an angry man. But the point is, we don't know when he's coming back. That's the number one thing. And it's tough to say. I mean, all their Cubs pitchers are pitching pretty well right now. Like, why would you kick out anyone? Even Carlos Silva's pitching. He's been one of the worst pitchers in baseball the past 2 years when he's been healthy. He's pitching well. So, I mean, I guess you can pick up Zambrano and stash him if you got the room, but if you need any sort of immediate impact or anything with even the next 2-3 weeks, I don't think it's worth it.
Well, see, here's the thing. I think that there's actually a very good argument to be made that Zambrano, whether or not the Cubs will start him and kick out Carlos Silva, they probably should. Silva, as you mentioned, has been one of the worst pitchers in baseball the past couple of years. The Mariners had no use for him, even though they're now throwing 3 guys in their rotation who were nobodies before this season, it seems like. And basically, Zambrano, he's been getting good results and not getting good results. He's been getting terrible results, but his process doesn't seem to be that bad. He's striking out a lot of guys. He's not walking too many guys. If you look at all the fielding independent metrics, he's doing okay, at least okay, if not well. I see his velocity dropping, and that's a concern. But I see that on the home run to fly ball percentage, it's 18.5% of his fly balls are leaving the yard. That seems to me like just a stretch of bad luck on top of a little bit of actual decline. He's still going to be a pretty good pitcher moving forward.
Yeah, I would think so. I think part of it's mental with him. They really didn't give him a chance. Like, he had the horrible opening day. Wasn't terrible after that. Wasn't great. Wasn't terrible. And they put him in the bullpen. And he struggled in the bullpen, which I think is a bit of a concern. But at the same time, if that's not what he wants to do, if he's not in the right mindset, it's not a surprise he struggled there. I mean, you're right about the strikeouts, and that is important. I mean, I do think he will have fantasy value. I don't want to say he's going to be worthless the rest of the year, but I think, Pete, if you heard the news, rushed out, especially if you had to use a waiver claim on him, a high waiver claim, I just don't think it's worth it. It could be another month to 2 months even before he's back where what we're accustomed to. And I don't know if you want to take bad results or no results for that amount of time.
I would say, like in the deepest leagues, go ahead, take your flyer chance. You're probably not going to find a guy with as high an upside as his
true.
Available out there. But just keep an eye on him. Like, we don't know because the Cubs are withholding information.
Well, I definitely don't write him off. That's the biggest thing. Zambrano, he sucks. He was sent to the bullpen. Proofs of the pudding. He stinks. I mean, definitely don't take it that far, that's for sure.
2 years ago, there's a guy on that's next on your list that you have written down in front of you that I would have said you're absolutely crazy to ever write him off. Even when he's 50 years old, I think he could go out there and pitch and get 3 outs in the 9th inning. And that's Trevor Hoffman.
Yes.
I mean, the man has the greatest changeup a reliever has ever had. He's the all-time saves leader. And I thought at one point that he would just go on forever, a la knuckleball pitchers, because he's got that changeup. He could throw it 82 miles an hour, and guys would still be in front of it. And now, as I recall, he's given up more home runs than he gave up all last year, or at least as many as he gave up all last year, just imploding. How do you see this playing out in Milwaukee?
I mean, I think he's done.
Be more blunt, please.
Yeah, no, not done for like his career necessarily, but I think at least for the short term, they have to do something. They can't. He's dead man walking when he comes out there. And yesterday, I mean, it was double, homer, single, walk. Single off the wall, walk off, single off the wall. I mean, he's just getting knocked around like a little leaguer. So they're going to have to make a switch. I've been saying, I expected this actually a couple of weeks ago, the phony DL stint. He's got the tough tendon, tight tendon in his elbow. But I think it's coming, and their bullpen's pretty terrible. Yeah. they have one guy, and that's Carlos Villanueva, especially with LaTroy Hawkins injured. So he will close. He's got value. I've been stashing him in 2 different leagues for weeks now, and I've held on to him, and I think it's coming. It's just a matter of time.
Now, you don't think the Brewers cottoned to the idea of LaTroy Hawkins as the proven closer? So even though he hasn't been doing well at all, one would think that with a more traditional club that he'd be the first choice.
Well, he's hurt right now, which obviously, so he can't close. But even if he were to come back, I think he's eligible on the 22nd to come off the DL. I still think it's Villanueva. I mean, he at least has some closing experience. He closed at the start of last year when Hoffman was on the DL. So I think he's the guy. He's been, even he struggled a little bit. He's had 2 bad outings in his last 4, but he's clearly the best pitcher in that bullpen. So I think he'll get first crack. And if he flops and Hawkins comes back healthy, they'll go with Hawkins and musical chairs.
Now, the most interesting closer situation that I've seen in recent days is the one in Arizona. I think everyone who has paid really close attention targeted Chad Qualls to be the guy who would lose the closing job pretty early, right up there with Dotel, guys like that. But Chad Qualls has been so awful. It's actually kind of amusing that AJ Hinch hasn't moved away from him already.
Well, it's another example of who they're going to put in. They tried Gutierrez, he gets shelled. Yeah. They don't really have anyone, and right now the guy who's by far pitching the best in that bullpen is Aaron Heilman. And this was a guy who was just getting lit up earlier in the year. And this is a guy who, throughout his career, has shown a pattern of being a guy you can't trust. So you want? I mean,
he's a career guy who's always wanted to be a starter,
right?
And who kind of chafed at being either a setup guy or even a relief ace type closer, setup type guy.
Right.
And so it always strikes me as odd when it just kind of comes back around. Like someone says, "Hey, his stuff fits for the bullpen. Let's put him there." Does he really want it? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of issues with that team, and Qualls has struggled and been on the hot seat pretty much all year. He's had a couple defensive letdowns that have hurt him and maybe made him look worse than he really has been. But yeah, if they had a capable replacement, he'd be out. But they don't.
So you have to make the choice right now. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do they just stick with Qualls? Do they go with Gutierrez, bad results notwithstanding? Do they go to Heilman, or do they go to someone like Carlos Rosa, who they just picked up from the Royals of all teams on May 1st?
Yeah, I think right now it's Qualls for the foreseeable future. If I was, unless I was really desperate for saves and prospecting, I wouldn't pick up like Heilman or Rosa or any of these other guys because it's just too volatile. And there could be someone new by next week that we don't even know. Some minor leaguer come out of nowhere.
And let's not forget. I mean, I think as I recall, I can't exactly cite it, but I feel like AJ Hinch is the type of guy who's willing to go with a committee type approach, just as nobody's good enough to be the man.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me either if they started playing matchups more, just doing something. Or, I mean, who knows? That team is kind of a mess in general.
Hey, that's the nightmare for fantasy owners. Almost as bad as a running back by committee.
Yes, we don't like seeing those. Those are the norm, though. Nothing we can do. So.
Well, this is a Fantasy Source Fastball podcast. I'm David Arnott, Matt Lutovsky. Join us next week right here at Fantasy Source Fastball.